Here's how I do it. I know Mrs. McElhenney did it differently. So if you had her, then you may have seen a different way. But you leave the 3x on this side and move that over to the left side and change the operation. Keep this where it's at. Move this over to the right, change the operation. 3x minus 2x is x, and 5 minus 1 is 4. Alright, try this one, see if we can get more answers. On this problem, it should be 7x minus 2x, and then 4 plus 1. That'll be 5x equals 5, and if you divide both sides by 5, you end up with a 1. Last one. On this one, you're leaving this where it's at, but that moves over and becomes plus 2x. This stays, that moves over and becomes plus 3. This will give you a positive x, and of course the right side is 7. Pick a number from 1 to 5. The winning number today is 4. $21 present, and those that had homework, we had 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 19. We had 19 out of 20 come up with homework. So that's a percentage of 90. Alright, here are the answers. If you came up here and I didn't tell you otherwise, you already have your 50 out of 50 for homework. We're going to check right and wrong for answers. You go down through your paper and put a check mark beside the ones that you had right. You're checking your own answers. You don't lose points if you get something wrong. It's a 1 extra credit point for every one you get right. So here we go. Number 1 should be -1. And we're only doing answers right now. If you want to go back and look at some work or ask some questions, we'll do that at the end. 2 is I. 3 is I. 4 is I. 5 is I. 6 is 1. 7 is I. 8 is 1. 9 is 1. 10 is I. What is I? Square root of negative. What's I to the 4th? What is I to the 5th? What is I to the 12th? 1. Yes, it's a multiple of 4. What is I to the 18th? -1. Yeah, because I to the 16th would be 1, and I to the 2nd is -1. What is I to the 7th? -I. What is I to the 13th? I, because I to the 12th is 1, and another I just makes it I. What is I to the 36th? 1. What is I to the 33rd? I to the 32nd and I. I to the 32nd is a multiple of 4, so that's 1. And then you just have I. So it would be I. What is I to the 35th? Same thing as I to the 3rd. What is I to the 3rd? -1 or -I? -I. Okay. What is I to the 27th? -I, because I to the 24th is the nearest multiple of 4 without going over 27, and you got to add another 3 to get to 27. I to the 3rd is -I. All right. Today's objective. Same as yesterday, know there is a complex number I such that I squared equals -1, and every complex number has the form A plus BI with A and B real numbers. Your knowledge targets for today. Define I as square root of -1 or I squared as -1. Define complex numbers and write complex numbers in the form A plus BI with A and B being real numbers. Alright, here's the first example. We have to multiply these two complex numbers together. Notice they're both in the form A plus BI. So whatever form it's in to start with, regardless of if it's in the right form or not, you have to put your answer in A plus BI form if necessary. Alright, so way back from Algebra 1, you have to remember the FOIL method for this. So you start here and multiply those two together and come up with 12. And then you go from that 3 to the minus 3i. Multiply to get minus 9i. You're done with the 3. You move to the 2i. 2i times 4 is 8i. And then 2i times a minus 3i is minus 6i squared. Don't forget to add your exponents when you're multiplying i's together. Now from here you have to do some simplifying. You have 12 out front, but you have minus 9i and plus 8i. You have to add those together. A negative 9 plus 8 would be a negative 1, so it's just a negative I. Negative 9i plus 8i is negative 1i. You don't write the 1. Here on the back end, you have minus I squared, minus 6i squared. So we have to take care of this minus 6i squared. What's I squared? Negative 1. So we'll go back and do minus 6 times negative 1. That's a double negative. Becomes plus 6. Now you have two constants that you have to simplify. You have a 12 and a 6. 12 plus 6 is 18. And your final answer is in the form A plus BI. Make sure the I term comes second and the constant term comes first. Here's example 2. The quantity of 6 minus 2i multiplied by the quantity of 5 plus I. You're going to start here with the 6. 6 times 5 is 30. And then 6 times I is 6i. You're finished with the 6. You have to move to the minus 2i, and you have to include the sign in front of it. So minus 2i times 5 is minus 10i. And then minus 2i times I is a minus 2i squared. And from this point on, you have to simplify. Nothing you can do with this 30 right now, but you can simplify the middle. 6i minus 10i is minus 4i. And on the back end, you know that I squared is negative 1. So minus 2 times a negative 1 is going to be plus 2. So now simplify your constants. 30 plus 2 is 32. 32 minus 4i. We're going to start with 7 and multiply it by 4 to get 28. And 7 times minus 5i to get minus 35i. Now we go to the 3i. 3i times 4 is 12i. And 3i times a minus 5i is minus 15i squared. So now you have to go back and simplify. And we're going to leave this 28 where it's at. Negative 35i plus 12i is a negative 23i. Minus 15 times a negative 1 is plus 15. 28 plus 15 is 43. So 43 minus 23i is the answer. For this bonus problem, it's 4x minus 2x equals 12 minus 2. That would be 2x equals 10. Divide both sides by 2 to get x equals 5. Six x plus x equals 35 minus 7. So that's 7x equals 28. Divide both sides by 7 to get a 4. We're going to start with 6 and do 6 times 3, which is 18. And then 6 times minus I, which is minus 6i. Now go to 2i and do 2i times 3, which is 6i. And 2i times a negative I, which is a negative 2i squared. Alright, we need to simplify here. Keep the 18. Negative 6i plus 6i is 0i, which means it's just 0. So it's gone. That whole thing cancels out. And over here we have negative 2 or a minus 2 times a negative 1, so that's plus 2. Should come up with an answer of 20. You should have 5x plus 7x equals 36 minus 12, which is 12x equals 24. Divide both sides by 12 to get it 2. Negative 3x plus 5x equals 9 minus 5. That's going to be 2x equals 4, which is not the final answer. Divide both sides by 2 to get 2. You just walk by with these. If you multiply all these together, you get I to the 4th, which is 1. If I multiply all these together, I come up with I to the 6th. Or you could look at it this way. Try to group them in terms of powers of 4. That makes a power of 4. I to the 4th is 1, so essentially it just cancels out. You're left with I squared, which is a negative 1. And down here you could have broken this up as 4 and 2 and accomplished the same thing. Here's example 3. On example 3, you're just multiplying an item through a set of parentheses. So I squared times 2 is 2I squared. And then I squared times 3I is 3I to the 3rd. Make sure you get your exponents right. Now go through and simplify that. You have 2 times I squared. I squared is negative 1. So that would be a negative 2. And then you'll have plus 3I to the 3rd, which you have to simplify that I to the 3rd. I to the 3rd is what? Negative I, right. So it would be negative 2 plus, not plus, I can't erase when I record for some strange reason, but it would be negative 2 minus 3I. this times the 3 would give us the minus 3i. Example 4. 4i to the third times the quantity negative 1 minus 3i. Multiply this by this to get negative 4i to the third. And then multiply this by this, including the sign in front. So that's minus 12i to the fourth. Now we have to simplify. We have a negative 4, and what is I to the third? Negative I. So I have a negative 4 times a negative I, so that's a positive 4i. Now over here, I to the fourth is 1, so now I have minus 12. I cannot leave my answer like this because it's not in this form. So you have to switch the terms. This must go out front, and this goes out back. So you'll have a negative 12 plus 4i for your final answer, and it must be in that form.
So you don't.
Multiply this by this to get 6i to the fourth, and this by this to get 12i to the fifth. I put an X. That should be an I. I can't erase when I'm recording. Alright, so we'll go here and do 1. 1 times 6 is 6. And now we have a 12 times an I to the fifth. I to the fourth is 1, so we have an I left over. So it would be I. 6 plus 12i is the answer. This should be negative 3x plus 5x equals negative 8 minus 6. 2x equals negative 14. Divide both sides by 2, and you come up with negative 7.